really shifted the momentum to Western coal or some Tennessee Basin coal, which is a lower sulfur emission coal. But we have enough coal reserves in Illinois to power this country for the next 200 years, just in Illinois. Now, you mentioned nuclear. We are a nuclear state. We have a great deal of nuclear energy that's provided, and some here in central and northern Illinois. We also have an opportunity with the Mississippi River, not far from here. Quincy would like to build a hydroelectric plant, lock and dam, I think, 22 and 23, 24 along the Mississippi River. So there are some opportunities to really diversify our energy usage, either through hydroelectricity, through nuclear, through coal. And there are oil reserves, as you mentioned. Southeastern Illinois particularly had a great deal of oil reserves that were farmed in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So there is a lot of resource here that we can tap into. You have to look, when you talk about coal, to clean coal technology and to scrubbing it so that there is not the emission effect that causes problems for a lot of different folks and would violate some of the EPA standards. But I think we have the resources here and we just need to invest in them. The wind farms are expensive to get started, and I think they have a long-term benefit that we can look to. They're only good in some areas because you have to have a lot of wind. Right. Maybe they could put a wind farm in the state capitol building because there'd certainly be enough hot air to keep those turbines blowing then. But I think we have all the resources here. We just have to focus on them. And we could be a resource for the rest of the country because of all of those things. And when you look at hydroelectric on the Mississippi, that could help Missouri and Iowa as well as Illinois. The coal obviously can be shipped everywhere by rail. And so there are lots of things that we can do.
So here's an opportunity. We do have a lot of coal in Illinois.
Yes.
And that's true that we have a lot of sulfur in our coal. And I guess I'm not an expert in it, but there is a difference between carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide. Mm-hmm. And when people refer to clean coal, they're talking about these smokestack scrubbers that take the sulfur dioxide out of the coal as it's being burned to create energy. And that's what I guess we'd call clean coal. And but environmental groups will say, well, you're still letting carbon dioxide out. And that's right. What the cap and trade bill is all about. That's what a lot of environmentalists are concerned about. What do you see the role in the state of Illinois in the next decade or so, especially if elected, in terms of utilizing Illinois coal to basically take our dependence off of foreign oil and utilize that more as an energy source?
Well, Illinois coal is a higher sulfur coal. It also burns hotter, which produces more energy. So it has some pluses and minuses. But there is coal to liquid technology. There's coal gasification plants. One of the byproducts of coal mines is methane, which is in the mines, which can be trapped or sequestered from the current mining system, which can be used then. You have the Future Gen plant, which has been talked about in central Illinois for hydrogen power. So there are a lot of different clean coal technologies that we can implement. Southern Illinois University, in fact, has a Clean Coal Technology Center, a coal resource center. There is a lot of technology out there that we can put to use for the entire nation, not just for Illinois, based around Illinois coal.
So it sounds like it could create jobs then. I mean,
absolutely.
We're talking about creating...
Oh, absolutely. You have the mining jobs, which in Illinois, up through the 1970s and early 1980s, there had been 50,000 mining jobs in Illinois. Today, there are probably less than 10,000 mining jobs. Those jobs are good paying jobs, but then they have the spin-off effect as well. And when we bring in the technology, you're talking about some scientific research jobs and some higher paying technical jobs that really could be a boon for Illinois' economy.
Okay, well, I guess I'm going to get down to the nuts and bolts of this and ask you the question, do you believe CO2 is a pollutant or not?
Well, carbon dioxide is a natural byproduct of all living creatures, and so I think that it's been overblown as far as the impact on the environment. I think that we have an obligation to, if we're talking about coal, to scrub it or to clean it or to have the emissions be as low as they can be, certainly with people with asthma and things like that. But it's not the problem that I think the environmentalists would have it be made to be.
Okay. And the reason I brought that up and we've asked this to every candidate, just because we want to educate voters simply on some of the statistical facts, and wanted to get your input on this. There was a climate article done in 2009 August, so it was just a few months ago. There was a Dr. Lindzen and Choi from MIT, and what they did is they had They took the satellite data from a satellite that's been reading atmospheric heat for the last 20-some years. And they took all that data, and what they found was quite surprising in their article. It showed that every climate model by the UN was wrong because they thought that the greenhouse gases were going to trap the heat internally. And what they found is that the same proportion amount of heat was being released out into the space as much as was being created. So
Right.
as the bell curve went up, more heat was being released, and as the bell curve go down, less heat's being released. So that was the article that they did, which was kind of some people on the one side said it was a death blow, and then the people on the other side said it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And I want to get your opinion on that and the East Anglican research. I guess I'll call it concern, because here you have a major institute that had sent emails out that kind of gave people a little
Right.
concern about the scientific rigidity of that. And the reason I bring this up for a state position again, it goes back to the rich abundance amount of biodiesel, of ethanol, of coal. All these things produce CO2.
Right.
And if we have a cap and trade, it feels like Illinois will be on the wrong end of that, where we'll have to buy carbon credits to create
Right.
jobs in Illinois.
Cap and trade is bad for Illinois. It's bad for Illinois' economy. It's bad for the residents of Illinois because of the business impact that it's going to have. So I studied biology in college, undergraduate degree, and I understand some of the science on this. I think the science is probably flawed, or at least the way that it's been presented by some of the extremists. It's certainly not settled, I think is the word that you used. And so there's a lot of questions out there in ecology and environmental science. And any day you can find a study that says this is good for you, and the next day find that it's bad for you.
Yeah.
I mean, we see all that on the news constantly. So I think you have to take some of that in moderation. Mark Twain said all things in moderation, including moderation. And I think that some of this science is extreme, and we just need to do what we can to wean ourselves from the foreign oil and to be able to provide good jobs and be able to care for our environment and our surroundings. And I think most people want to do that.
Well, let's talk about caring for our surroundings, and we'll shift it to Thompson.
Yeah.
As you know, it's not a done deal yet, but it sounds
Right.
like it's going to be a rubber stamp here to move, close down Gitmo and move them to Thompson, which some people are already coining the term Gitmo North. And the question is A, are you in favor of it? And B, if you are in favor of it, why? And if you're not in favor of it, why not?
I think, first of all, prisons are designed to keep people in, and to the most extent they do that effectively. And so you can house just about anybody in the prison and feel secure in that. One of the issues with Illinois prisons and the correction system is that staffing is underfunded, and we have I think, mismanagement in the Department of Corrections right now. Of course, this would be taken over by the Federal Bureau of Prisons under the Department of Justice. There is a federal prison. There used to be a maximum security prison in southern Illinois. It actually replaced Alcatraz. They held people like John Gotti and Manuel Noriega and lots of folks. So as far as the function of a prison, they are safe and secure. I don't like the idea of bringing these combatants, terrorists, into Illinois. And I think that that's the real problem. What kind of an impact is it going to have on Carroll County around Thompson? What is going to be the impact on the state court system? Are these criminals or alleged criminals who probably should be tried in military tribunals, are they going to now be trying to access the state court system through Carroll County's circuit? What type of federal court system are they going to have needs to have access to, or what kind of presence are they going to have? And what kind of, I guess, who's going to be following them? What kind of element is going to follow these people to a very nice small town in northwest Illinois? And so within the prison, whoever's in there can be managed. It's what's going to be happening around it. Now, some of the folks up there are probably glad that they'll be seeing some increased jobs and that those jobs will be well-paying, and it'll create some opportunities for folks. But I don't think it's a good idea. I think that it's a hasty decision. I think, first of all, they should be maintained in Guantanamo Bay. I think that's where they deserve to stay until they're adjudicated. We just saw with this underwear bomber that terrorism is alive and well in the United States. There are attacks that are being planned against us every day. And some of those folks in Yemen that helped support him were at Guantanamo. They were released to Saudi Arabia.